Good morning, everyone. The storm is over, and now the assessment, search, rescue, and recovery mode has begun. The first thing I want to say is that a firefighter's life was lost yesterday, and our hearts go out to his family, his friends, and fellow firefighters. Our first responders put their lives on the line, and when one of them loses their life, we all feel the pain in Connecticut. We also, unfortunately, had another fatality, and we grieve that loss as well. And as of a few minutes ago, 2 individuals were still listed as missing. Let's hope those numbers do not get worse. We took a big hit over the past few days, and I want to thank the people of Connecticut for hanging in there. We did our best to protect you and stand with you, and now it's our job to get people's lives back to normal as quickly as possible. That may take some time, but we won't rest until it happens. It became clear to us early last evening that the worst-case scenario we had been predicting for days might well occur and was, in fact, occurring. Despite our warnings that we were facing a potential of historic flooding and the evacuation of Category 4 nature was in order, it became clear that potentially thousands of people who had not been evacuated were in harm's way. I did not want the people who were stranded to try to move through dangerous waters in an attempt to escape their homes, and I wanted anyone who could be evacuated to be evacuated. We are doing our best this morning to get on-the-ground assessments in those impacted shoreline towns, and when we have specific numbers in terms of property damage, evacuations that occurred, missing people, and the recovery effort that have succeeded, we will update you. I hope to have firm numbers on the types of activities later today, though, as you can imagine, when an event of this magnitude occurs, those numbers will be constantly changing. Right now, my attention is 100% focused on getting people's lives back to normal as quickly as possible. Let me give you a few updates on various activities that are going on around the state. We have lifted the travel ban on our state's highways. Having that ban in place no doubt prevented loss of life and major accidents from occurring, so I want to thank everyone who complied with it. Non-essential state employees have been asked to report to work, have been asked not to report to work today, and all school systems across the state are closed. My assumption is that state employees will report to work tomorrow as scheduled, but we'll give firm direction on that later today based on facilities that have power. All local school systems across the state are closed, as I said. The State Department of Motor Vehicles is closed. As of a few minutes ago, approximately 630,000 customers were still without power. I've made clear to the utility companies that their job is to get that power back as quickly as possible, and they understand that, I can assure you. I'm going to spend much of the day with the Lieutenant Governor traveling around the state so that we can both see firsthand the damage that has been done, as well as understand the intensity of the efforts to return Connecticut to its normal position. With that, I'll take a few questions.
Governor, there's another high tide coming at midday today. Do you expect it to be less, more, the same?
About a foot and a half. The current estimates are that it would be about a foot and a half less than yesterday's daytime high tide.
Can you talk about the situation in Bridgeport? I know the National Guard is helping out with state police there. They are concerned about potential looting or vandalism.
Well, there's some really good news to report about Bridgeport, and that is that the assets that we went to great lengths to protect, specifically the substations that could have been flooded due to extraordinary efforts, were not flooded. So that's the good news. Once they've had an opportunity to get in and see the underground vault system in Bridgeport, a determination will be made as to how quickly that system can go on. But we are in so much better position right now because of the extraordinary efforts to isolate those substations from flooding, which would have otherwise occurred. We'll keep you posted on that. With respect to working with Bridgeport, we have shared assets. We'll continue to share assets. We'll respond in any way that we can. But there's no doubt that turning that system off, putting all of our efforts into making sure that the substations were not impacted adversely, will allow us to restore energy much more rapidly than we would have otherwise been in a position to do.
We have a lot of downstate residents, well, actually everywhere, who work in Manhattan. And what's the status on Metro North? I know that Lower Manhattan has some serious problems. Have you heard from New York, and can you tell us the status of Metro North?
Some of my team is in communication with New York, particularly our DOT commissioner. Extraordinary damage has been done to the underground system in New York, particularly in Lower Manhattan, as well as the PATH trains in New Jersey. I think we can only assume that it's going to take a period of time to restore that system and therefore allow our Connecticut residents to get to jobs within Manhattan when Manhattan is open for business. Metro North, on our end of the line, will be doing reconnaissance so that we'll have an understanding, most likely later today, as to the ability of our portion of the system to transport people in and out of Grand Central, which is the primary depository of our residents.
But Interstate 95 and the Parkway are open.
Interstate 95 and the Parkway are open. Obviously, the Parkway is subject. There's going to be a lot of pushing and shoving going on for some period of time, and we will have a wind condition through this afternoon. But yes, those roads are open.
What about the transit buses?
Transit service is being restored as we can. I think that a restoration in Hartford will take place or may already be in the at 12 o'clock. Other locations will depend on circumstances as we understand them. We'll try to push that information out by electronic announcement, but I anticipate that we can get buses up and running fairly quickly today or tomorrow.
Any initial feedback on the new system of communications and coordination with the utilities from town officials overnight?
I think things, by and large, went well. There were a couple I think there's some, you got utilities that have a set of concerns. You have municipal officials that got a set of concerns. We've got everybody who wants to be in charge, but they seem to have worked most of that stuff out. We will have a municipal call, so I'll be here through the municipal call, and then I'm going to hit the road for a while and see what's going on around the state.
Where are you going?
Folks are working on that itinerary as we speak, and I'm sure we'll share it with you as soon as we have it.
Back here at noontime?
No, I think we're going to cancel the noontime briefing. We're going to go to the 6 o'clock briefing so that I can actually spend some time. Otherwise, I'm trapped here in Hartford, so neither. If there's any briefing at 12 o'clock, it won't be by us, and I don't think we'll organize an official briefing.
Will you feel with some of the work that's been done over state level and with the utilities and the tree cutting and maybe even leveling from some of the previous storms that we did a lot better this time around?
We did a lot better this time around. We've taken some heat over tree trimming. I understand that in the past, but if you look at the numbers at the height of this storm, which actually had higher wind. Now I know we didn't have as many leaves on the trees versus the last storm. It leads me to believe that some good has been accomplished. Clearly, everyone. We had a nice long warning to this storm. That's a reality. But I think we did a pretty good job in it. And I think some of our longer-term efforts, specifically tree trimming, which I know is controversial, has paid off.
What's the status? President Obama has declared an emergency in New Jersey and New York. What's the status for Connecticut?
I suspect that'll be coming in the not-too-distant future. We have to give them some information. FEMA's on board here, as you know, and I don't anticipate any particular delay in that. We'll report to you as that takes place. Let me put it this way: there is no doubt that that's going to happen at this point. So it's a matter of when it happens, not if. We clearly have thousands of units of housing that have been impacted by this storm.
Do you have any further analysis or information about what happened or didn't happen last night as far as the evacuations on the shore?
We'll take a look at that. I mean, I think, listen, everyone here has covered a story of somebody refusing to evacuate. People in Connecticut, Samuel Clemens said that we are the land of steady habits. I read in the Current today, somebody who lived in the neighborhood for 50 years, her family had been in the 50 years, and they'd never evacuated before, and they weren't going to evacuate. It was those folks who we were concerned about starting at 8 o'clock when we saw this rapid rise in the tidal situation in the lower sound that we did not want to see go in the water. I had one scary story at Cozy Beach last year that will never leave me. And it was a guy who went up to the second floor of his house, and the first floor became completely flooded up to the staircase. And it was he and his dog in the house. And he made a decision to go out the window and try to swim to shore. And he got into the water, and the dog had more sense. And he could not pull the dog into the water. So he climbed back into the window of the house, and as I would conclude the story, he survived. If we had had people, in my opinion, and what I was most fearful of during this period of time where we saw a gigantic and rapid rise in the level of water in the Western Sound, he was in my mind. Who was going to go in the water? Who was going to try to fight their way to the shore, to the land, or hop in a car and drive themselves into water that would cover the car. And so we, as I explained to you last night, we got all of the most affected. Actually, eventually we got everybody on the water, and we talked about that, and we talked about whatever efforts we could undertake to secure people in place, to have them understand at that point that the safest place they could be was in their house, because they had, for whatever reason, and the reason's not important, decided not to evacuate. And I think we were effective in that. Last question.
There's no authority.
Actually, I'll do two because I heard you both.
Local authorities can't physically remove people
Correct.
from their homes. I mean, they just can't do that.
Right. And by the way, doing that on a one-on-one basis would occupy so much time of the people involved that it would disturb the information sharing portion of that officer, fireman, or public official. Last question.
What did you have you heard anything about sewage treatment plants? I know that you expressed concern about that last night. Can you tell us anything about that?
Sure. We have a number of sewage treatment plants that are on generator backup. We have a number of sewage treatment plants that discharge directly for a period of time. All of our sewage treatment plants are back up and running. To the best of my knowledge, I believe I have that correct. But clearly, I think at least 4 are relying, maybe more, are relying on generator capacity. Of course, you lose that generator capacity, then you lose the ability to process. Ledyard specifically had direct discharge. I think Bridgeport, for a period of time, had direct discharge. Suffice to say, is in the immediate time being, no one should eat the clams or oysters. Thank you very much.